pressure is being at work, in terms of the international forum really on India and Pakistan. So there are a couple of interesting factors, but most importantly, Narendra Modi, a man known for, of course, his love of the optics, somebody who loves to pull these bunnies out of his hats. It was a complete surprise when he announced that Barack Obama would be the chief guest of the Republic Day ceremony in 2015.
Or for that matter, when he announced that for his swearing-in ceremony, Nawaz Sharif himself is going to come. So he has been pulling out these bunnies for a very long time. And I guess today is yet another, perhaps time for another bunny, isn't it?
It's a full-grown bunny, so it's a full-grown bunny. But we'll have to wait and watch till March, April, because that's when, when the snow starts melting, you see more increased activity along borders. It's not like the borders are silent at the moment. Every day there are reports of terror attacks being foiled in Jammu and Kashmir. But clearly in Jammu and Kashmir, politically the mood is one that, of course, advocates dialogue between these two neighbors. Important to see if these two Sharifs continue to be Sharif after this meeting, or one of them decides to be not Sharif in the days to come. As Musharraf had decided, of course, to sort of completely reverse the script after that historic, the Lahore bus, in fact, movement with which Atal Bihari Vajpayee had gone in and extended that hand of friendship to Nawaz Sharif. But remember, Atal Bihari Vajpayee was statesman-like Sanket, and despite that Kargil war, at the end of the day in 2002, he did go back for the SAARC summit in Islamabad.
Right.
So Narendra Modi, this is his moment where he is wanting to be statesman-like.
Absolutely, and that is why the term that was used by Sushma Swaraj, the word that she used, this is like a statesman. Her exact tweet, let's quickly load that tweet before we head into a short break. Sushma Swaraj's tweet actually said, "That's like a statesman. पड़ोसी से ऐसे ही रिश्ते होने चाहिए." That's Sushma Swaraj's tweet on your screen right now. Remember, today is Nawaz Sharif's birthday. Today is Atal Bihari Vajpayee's birthday. Today is also Muhammad Ali Jinnah's birth anniversary in Pakistan. It is full, this particular meeting. Okay, that's the latest that is coming in at this moment. Omar Abdullah, the president of the National Conference, has also tweeted where he has said, now waiting for the statement from Jammu and Kashmir government. Then he says, claiming that Mufti Saeed was the one who forced Prime Minister Modi to visit Lahore today. Okay, he's playing his own regional politics over there. But as far as this meeting is concerned, as far as this particular meeting is concerned, there is every opportunity at this moment of that grandstanding which in fact can be made. A great amount of expression that people from both sides, whether it is Pakistan or India, can take back home. Having this non-stop broadcast at this moment, considering the fact that the Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, has decided that he will be visiting Pakistan. He'll be making a Pakistan pit stop. This is Modi becoming the first Prime Minister after Atal Bihari Vajpayee to actually go to Pakistan. It's unprecedented. It's something which has been unheard in a long, long time. Let's go across to Mr. Ashraf Qazi, who joins us on the phone line. Mr. Qazi, how do you look at this particular development? How positive are you?
Well, I think it's a very positive development, and it's coming just after the Indian Foreign Minister's visit to Pakistan for the Heart of Asia conference, and which led to the announcement of a resumption of dialogue, and before her coming, you had the National Security Advisor meeting in Bangkok. So this is a progression upwards, and it's not a one-time event that has, may or may not lead to anything. We've had in rapid succession these meetings culminating in this short stopover. So it does promise a lot. And it seems there is thinking behind it. It's not something which is just a polite courtesy. I think on Prime Minister Modi returning from Afghanistan, stopping over in Lahore on his way to Delhi, does convey the possibility that our policies can begin to take account of each other's concerns. And in Afghanistan, as you know, we've been playing sort of zero-sum games against each other, and hopefully we can now move towards a scenario in which we have
Okay.
a positive some kind of approach.
Okay, Mr. Kazi, many thanks for joining us at this moment. We have Karan Thapar joining us on the phone line. Good afternoon, Karan. First of all, I want to know how surprised are you at this moment with this pit stop? And secondly, how do you look at this particular meeting? Is this most certainly a step in the positive direction?
I'm extremely surprised, but also I will add extremely delighted. I think this is a very positive step. Let me say that when I heard the news all of 20 minutes ago, what came to my mind was a similar gesture made by Anwar Sadat as president of Egypt in the late 70s, when he surprised the world by announcing that he was flying to Jerusalem. And that one gesture led to a marked change, almost a sea change in Egyptian-Israeli relations. The two countries stopped fighting, they recognized each other, they established diplomatic relationships, and since then it's been a different trajectory altogether. I don't believe, as far as I know, that any Indian Prime Minister has ever taken this sort of step. So Mr. Modi is unique in that sense in the Indian perspective. He's doing something that President Anwar Sadat did, and I'm very glad he's doing it, and I think this signifies three very important things. Firstly, it is proof that the Prime Minister is now personally committed to improving the relationship with Pakistan and prepared to go well beyond regular steps. He's taken a unique step, a challenging step, a courageous step, and that is proof of his commitment. Secondly, it also shows that there has been considerable behind-the-scenes work going on. We became aware of that when the two prime ministers surprised each other with their 3-minute meeting in Paris, then when the two NSAs met, then when Sushma Swaraj's meeting in Pakistan with Sardar Aziz led to a whole revival of what's now called the composite bilateral dialogue. Clearly, the visit that's happening today has taken us by surprise, but the two governments, the two heads of government in particular, and their officials have been working on this for a while, because this is not the sort of gesture the Prime Minister would have taken without being absolutely sure it was welcome on the other side. And so there's a whole lot of preparation that's been going on, and that's the second thing that this signifies. And the third is that you can now, I think, expect that Mr. Modi's stature will go up internationally because of what he's done, just as Anwar Sadat did. Equally, he will face a lot of criticism, but I think in this instance very mistaken and wrong criticism for Congress. You've already seen some of it from Manish Tiwari.
Right.
The truth of the matter is that gestures like these always take people by surprise. They indicate commitment and courage, and it is a gesture like this that is needed if we're going to change that fundamental relationship, and I'm glad it's happened. I welcome it.
Karan, hi, this is Smita here in the studio. You know, if I could just start a question, knowing the kind of political situation that every Indian Prime Minister has to deal with back home, you know, when Narendra Modi rode to power, the feeling was that this is a right of centre government with a decisive mandate, perhaps the best placed to address a territorial conflict or a conflict as complex when it comes to India-Pakistan relations. With 18 months gone by, do you think this is perhaps the best possible window when Mr. Modi can try and take a few risks, and that is what he is doing exactly?
Well, without doubt, Mr. Modi has begun taking that risk, and that risk began being taken first in Paris, then in Bangkok, then when Sushma Swaraj agreed to start the bilateral dialogue, but now in a much more dramatic way, with the Prime Minister stopping in Lahore to talk to Nawaz Sharif, wish him birthday, perhaps have lunch with him. That is the sort of personal, individual gesture that goes above just policy direction. It's a sign of his own personal commitment. So the risk is being taken. It has been taken previously, but this is a dramatic sign of it being taken.
But Karan,
No doubt
do
he
you
will
think
say-
that this is also coming of age of this government's way of carrying out diplomacy? Because
I was going to answer that in a moment for you by saying this, that
Yeah.
there has been, I think, a very important and significant change in the functioning of this government, as well as perhaps the tone, tenor and behavior of the Prime Minister in particular after Bihar. You saw that in the first meetings that happened in Paris and in Bangkok. You're seeing it now significantly. You saw it in the tone of the speeches the Prime Minister delivered both in the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, and most importantly, although it didn't get the attention it deserves, you saw it in Rajnath Singh's speech on the floor of the Lok Sabha when he said that historians, scholars, artists are our guides. We learn from them, which was the exact opposite of Arun Jaitley saying that this was a what was the phrase he used? It
A
was
manufactured dissent.
protest, and he actually called them rabid anti-BJP elements. In contrast, Rajnath Singh even said, if we have made a mistake, we're willing to learn. And I think if you go back and piece together the changed speeches, the attitude to Pakistan, even the willingness of the government to allow discussion on everything, including things that embarrassed it in Parliament, you'll see a fairly important, significant change in the government. I hope it continues. I hope this is a new realization on Mr. Modi that some of the things he did, particularly his speeches, particularly his attitude to Pakistan, were mistaken and wrong. And when governments are prepared to accept they made a mistake, to change and go off in a different direction, people like me, I think, ought to applaud them, because this is what we were criticizing when they weren't doing it. Now when they start doing it, and assuming this is genuine, we should applaud them and encourage them.
Absolutely, Karan. Personally, we have been advocates of dialogue and questioned the government when they drew those red lines. I'm very tempted to ask you, given the fact that, the sort of foreign policy structure in India that we talk about so well, what was your sense, when the government did go ahead last August, drew all those new red lines of no engagement with Hurriyat, NSS will meet but only talk terror, no mention of Kashmir? Who was doing the thinking then? Is the thinking being now done by the Prime Minister himself, and the diplomats have been asked to simply fall in line?
Well, it's possible that there is a new input coming into the Prime Minister's thinking, and my hunch is that that new input is in fact from the Foreign Secretary Jaishankar. Remember, he took over at the very end of January, I think it was the 30th or 31st, and by March he had actually begun his Saak Yatra, which many thought was just an excuse for visiting Pakistan. UFA happened after that. UFA didn't lead to what we thought it would. Actually, UFA was a bit of a disappointment, but that was because, I think, the Indians began to crow publicly about the fact that UFA hadn't mentioned Kashmir, and we took this as a great victory. To be honest, Sharm el-Sheikh didn't mention Kashmir either, but this issue became so embarrassing for Nawaz that instead of going forward, we stalled. The reins have been picked up again. We're moving forward, and I think an important input, although this is my hunch, I don't have any factual basis for saying it, but I think an important input is the advice and the clever thinking of our new Foreign Secretary. He is the new element in the equation. All the others, the NSA, the Foreign Minister, the PMO, are old.
But Karan, I'm interfering you here because, on the contrary, normally the stories that come out in the press seem to suggest that it's NSA Ajit Doval who has literally been in constant touch with the Pakistanis, and the Pakistanis have started to feel comfortable with him.
I think the Pakistanis feel comfortable with him talking about terror, and remember, the only issue that he handles is terror. He's strictly restricted to terror and nothing else. All the other aspects of that relationship are actually handled by the Foreign Secretary. Secondly, although once again I'm only relying on Delhi gossip, it was Mr. Doval who crowed, if I could use that word, about India's great achievement after UFA that led to Pakistan getting embarrassed, to the army and the opposition in Pakistan taunting Nawaz Sharif for the fact that Kashmir wasn't mentioned. Remember, the gentleman you were speaking to a moment ago before me, Ashraf Ghazi, who served for 5.5 years as ambassador in this country, actually wrote an article after UFA happened, calling it a goof-up, and saying that, in fact, the failure to mention Kashmir was an unnecessary disaster. And Ashraf Ghazi is actually one of the Pakistani diplomats who's extremely keen and has done an awful lot to improve the relationship with India. Now, if someone like him can turn around and say this was a goof-up, you can see the extent of the embarrassment Nawaz faced. And many believe that embarrassment was caused by the fact that Mr. Doval, if the story is correct, was actually giving off-the-record briefings to the Indian media that this was a great achievement.
Current political reactions to this particular visit, how would you look at that?
Well, I think the reaction that I've heard from Manish Tiwari is gravely mistaken. I think to say that diplomacy is not handled in this cavalier fashion completely overlooks the fact that when a major initiative is taken, it will always sound to people as if it's cavalier, but we know now that actually this has had a lot of planning, because that's become apparent from Paris onwards. Secondly, when a Prime Minister at his level takes this unique, courageous step, of course it's a risk. Just as Anwar Sadat flying to Jerusalem was a huge risk. But look, without such risks, relationships don't change. And statesmen have to be prepared to take risks. because they believe that's what is required in a greater cause. Risk-taking, therefore, is an element of statesmanship, it's an element of strategy, it's an element of foreign policy thinking, and Mr. Modi is doing it. I hope he succeeds, because my wishes are that the relationship between the two countries should improve. If I was Congress, I would actually come out and encourage and support Mr. Modi, because he's doing something they presumably want him to do. Dr. Manmohan Singh would have wanted to do. It's widely known that he wanted to go to Pakistan and wasn't able to do it because he wasn't able to take that sort of risk. Mr. Modi has. So
in fact, Karan, it was, Manmohan Singh.
Completely wrong.
Karan, it was Manmohan Singh who famously said that, he wished that there should be a time where he could have breakfast in Delhi, lunch in Kabul, and, then the dinner in Lahore. So that is what seems to be playing out today, in fact, with Mr. Narendra Modi instead.
Although geography would require it to be breakfast in Delhi, lunch in Lahore, and then dinner in Kabul, unless you want to fly around in circles. But never mind. The order is not important. The fact that he's doing it is important. And yes, you're absolutely right. And therefore, I think and hope that voices in Congress like Manish Shankar Iyer, who've always said that the talks must be unbroken and unbreakable, will come out and publicly support what the Prime Minister has done. I hope Mrs. Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi will support it, because if they don't, they will actually be putting rather shallow and ill-thought-out partisan political interests ahead of the national interest.
Karan Thapar, many thanks for joining us with all that perspective. I know you rarely speak on issues, you want to conduct your show, but thanks very much for getting us this much needed perspective in the Indo-Pak talks. Deeply appreciated. Let's go across to Kaswar Kalasra, who joins us from Islamabad. Kaswar, the latest breaking news that we are getting is that Prime Minister Modi has landed at that airport in Lahore. That meeting is going to take place any minute now. Pakistani media, Dunya TV, is now reporting that Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif has also reached the airport to greet Prime Minister Modi. Now, Smita, it's not really known whether we will actually get footage instantly, because this is not a planned meeting.
Paris footage was actually a mobile footage, and they were taken aback that the footage sort of went out while it was orchestrated. What in fact, interestingly, Dawn News has now started reporting and speculating is that perhaps Mr. Narendra Modi might meet Mr. Nawaz Sharif's granddaughter, who I believe is getting married today. We'll have to wait and watch if that too happens, if he actually ends up attending that wedding ceremony as well.
Steps out of the airport, because unusual things are happening today, whether he'll come out of the airport.
Such a Merry Christmas.
Absolutely. It was such a bada din for the BJP, for the Prime Minister, and also for us journalists in terms of excitement. Let's go across to Kaswar Kalasra. Kaswar, what is the latest that you have?
Yes, definitely. You have rightly mentioned that the dignified guest, the most important guest, has landed there at Islamabad International Airport. Let me clarify. It was not Dunya Television or any other Pakistani television. It was our news channel that brought the story that Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif will be there to greet his guest. It was me who also who broke this story.
Yes, absolutely, Kaswar. No denying the fact.
The credit goes to us. Yeah, definitely. Credit goes to our news group.
Most certainly.
We reported that Nawaz Sharif will be there personally. So definitely, as you have rightly mentioned, that there is a mixed response from Indian and also from Pakistani analysts, Pakistani people for this meeting. One thing is very much clear. That is, if you recall, the Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif went across to greet Prime Minister Modi at his ceremony, as his oath ceremony. So definitely, this is Nawaz Sharif who's going to take credit of this meeting. Definitely, Prime Minister Modi has landed here in Pakistan, and the credit goes to the two people. Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif and Prime Minister Modi. Even no one here in Pakistan.
Kaswar, can you take us to what are you learning from your sources in Lahore about the schedule, how it is going to play out? Because clearly security is a high point issue. This couldn't have been just an impromptu visit. Security must have been heightened in Lahore over the last few hours in anticipation.
What I got from my sources, that is the Islamabad International Airport, has been completely sealed. It's no-go area for the public right now. According to my sources, the meeting is going to take place in the very, very important personality lounge inside the airport. So, but there is no ambiguity. As Nawaz Sharif is known for a very good host, he may take his counterparts and may take him to his
Kaswar, do stay on with us.
in Raiwind as well.
Yes, Kaswar, do stay on with us. What the visuals that we have on the screen right now are from Sama TV in Pakistan, where on the right hand side of your screen you can see that there is some movement taking place outside the Lahore airport. I believe this is the convoy or the motorcade of Prime Minister of Pakistan, Nawaz Sharif. In fact, even Sama TV, interestingly, Smita, if you take a look at their screen, on one hand they are actually showing the Prime Minister Narendra Modi's tweet. I'm sure this tweet is what broke the news to the Pakistani journalists also. Yeah. And then eventually India Today was the first to report that Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif is actually going to go there. And on the right hand side of your screen, you see that motorcade zooming inside the Lahore airport where this meeting is scheduled. And as Smita is actually saying, the fact that there is so much of surprise element around this particular meeting, one cannot deny the possibility that it could in fact there could in fact be something more to expect from this meeting, just rather than just a handshake. Yes, Smita.
There's a very interesting tweet that I would like to draw your attention to as we talk. There's this gentleman called Sajjan Jindal. You must have heard of him. He's been an interlocutor in India-Pakistan relations in the past, and recently there were certain media reports that had surfaced, and I had also reported that how Narendra Modi and Nawaz Sharif had actually had not just a brief interaction at Dhuli Khel in Kathmandu in that resort during the SAARC summit, but actually it was a half-an-hour chat. And Sajjan Jindal is basically a man who has close business ties with the family. He belongs to the Jindal group. He deals with a lot of precious stones. He has just tweeted a picture 15 minutes back saying, in Lahore to greet PM Nawaz Sharif on his birthday.
Which means it is quite planned.
Absolutely. It makes it very interesting. There's a lot of back channel going on, and Sajjan Jindal is the man to watch out for in terms of the back channel track to diplomacy in India and Pakistan. So, you know, it just cannot be a coincidence that he is also in Lahore all the way there just to wish Nawaz Sharif instead of a phone on Twitter, and Narendra Modi to his landing up now.
Absolutely. Let's go across to TV Today Network's managing editor, Rahul Kamal. Rahul, I believe the media perhaps failed in, gathering information from their sources. It now appears that perhaps a lot of people in the establishment, as you were also saying, this is not a secret. People knew. We did not. So it came as a surprise to the people.
Well, this is the way the Prime Minister likes to function. His team is sworn to complete secrecy. They're the kind who don't do any loose talk, don't give journalists any heads up, and that's the way he likes to function. Anybody who breaks that norm is very quickly shunted out or given a big dressing down. This is the way the Modi team likes to function. I've had an opportunity over the past 45 minutes to speak to some people in the BJP and the RSS who work closely on foreign policy. And Sanket, what we've gathered is that the Prime Minister believes that he must go out of the way to try and show that India is serious about the possibility of peace. And I asked them, so what happens if tomorrow or a month later there is a Mumbai or Parliament-like terror attack, and then the Prime Minister will end up looking very embarrassed? They said, in which case, we are prepared for the worst. So their sense is, make whatever effort you can to try and send the message that you're working towards peace, and to actively try and do so visibly, so that the world knows that India was serious about peace. But in case Pakistan gets back to its old and dirty games, be very prepared to respond very hard to that kind of a provocation as well. So this is a calibrated strategy, they're saying, on the part of the Prime Minister. It's not blind love in any sense. They're looking at the possibility of building bridges, and that's why the Prime Minister is going to Lahore.
Rahul, I'm sorry to interfere, but when everybody comes up with these calibrated strategy talks, somehow I'm a little skeptical, because we do know in terms of arms, ammunition, India's own reserves to fight a war, how unprepared we are. Perhaps that's a spin for damage control if needed.
Well, it depends. When you talk about war, nobody's talking about an all-out conflict which goes on for a long period. Even in the war games that have been undertaken at South Block, where the Indian military leadership has been present,
Looks like we've lost that connection to Rahul Kamal, but let's just quickly sort of...
26th of November, YSR Congress Party MP from Rajampet, PV Mithun Reddy, along with his supporters, allegedly slapped the Tirupati airport manager Rajshekhar when airport authorities refused.
The winters are upon us. Time to take out your sweater jackets and, in my case, cap. In fact, my colleague Rohit has already started knitting. Now, Sony smartphones, I really like them, because they have their own design philosophy.